I was expecting to see a brain with Alzheimer's disease features. So a shriveled, ugly-looking brain.
I slept in the car for probably about a year and a half out of the last 5 years.
Football caused Mike Webster's permanent brain damage. Before last fall, I had never watched a game of football. That all changed on a lazy Sunday afternoon when a highlights reel popped up on my YouTube feed, thanks to the NFL's well-spent ad dollars. I was hooked. The physicality, the strategy, the drama. It was more than a game, it was a spectacle. But what really caught my attention was the brutality. These 200-pound men were crashing into each other at 20 miles an hour. After a hit, they'd slam to the ground, their necks snapped, their heads bounced off the turf. Players were knocked out cold before disappearing into the blue tent, only to emerge minutes later back on the field ready for the next snap. They broke bones, tore ligaments, even forgot their own names, but they were still desperate to get back onto the field and into the game. Beneath the shoulder pads in the helmets, it was easy to forget that these men aren't superheroes. They're just men who put their body and their health on the line for the love of the game. As the playoffs heated up last December, I took a random quiz and learned that in 1905, football was nearly banned after 19 players died in a single season. How did football evolve from a sport that left players lining the local morgue to a centerpiece of American pop culture? I couldn't let it rest. I had to investigate. It started with player health, concussions, CTE. The deeper I dug, the more fascinated I became with the evolution of the game, the cultural juggernaut of the NFL, and the dark history of brain injuries that plague the league. This is Blood, Brains, and Glory, the making of America's favorite game, an investigative series that spans 3 centuries of football history, from the game's deadly origins to the multi-billion-dollar industry known as the National Football League. And we're starting with the story the NFL worked hard to bury. Mike Webster, Dr. Bennet Omalu, and the autopsy that changed everything. Mike Webster wasn't just another football center. He was an NFL legend who transformed the game. With 4 Super Bowl wins, a record-shattering 150 consecutive starts, the most ever for a center. He was more than a Hall of Fame player. He was the blueprint for toughness. In the 1970s Steelers' dominance, Webster was the anchor of the offensive line, fiercely protecting Terry Bradshaw and setting the gold standard for NFL grit. For an offensive lineman, every snap is a car crash. Webster survived those crashes week after week, a feat earning him the title Iron Mike. Through torn ligaments, concussions, even broken bones, he taped up and was on the line of scrimmage every Sunday. His playing style was punishing. Opponents said he would hit hard until the whistle blew, and sometimes even after. Webster's career lasted a victorious and gruesome 17 seasons, a brutal stretch for a position that absorbs head trauma on every play. After a career that most players could only dream of, Webster retired in 1990, but what followed was a nightmare. The loving father, doting husband, and reliable friend transformed into a man that no one could recognize. When he was cold, he didn't realize he could grab a jacket to warm up. When he drove to the store, a route he knew by heart, he couldn't remember how to get back home.
No, I'm talking about... No, I'm just trying to find... Yeah, well, trauma, everybody went through trauma as a kid. I'm not saying I was different than that. I'm just saying... the things we do to one another, okay? Hell, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just tired and confused right now. That's why I say I can't really... I can't say it the way I want to say it. I could answer this real easy at other times, but right now I'm just tired.
His mind was slipping into paranoia and anger. The family man turned volatile as his family walked on eggshells, waiting for his next outburst. And he kept unraveling. Homeless, his friends offered to pay for an apartment. He chose to live in his pickup truck.
I slept in the car for probably about a year and a half out of the last 5 years.
When his teeth fell out, he superglued them back in. He was desperate for sleep and would tase himself on the forehead to subdue himself. The millions he made during his career were gone, and in its place were poverty, decay, and desperation. His loved ones were baffled by his decline until 1999 brought an answer. By then, Webster was too impaired to speak. His lawyer, Bob Fitzsimmons, revealed that he had dementia caused by head trauma from a 17-year NFL career. The NFL Retirement Board ruled that Webster was totally and permanently disabled as the result of head injuries he suffered as a football player. The ruling stayed buried for years, but behind closed doors, the NFL made a powerful admission. Football caused Mike Webster's permanent brain damage. On September 24, 2002, Mike Webster passed away from a heart attack. He was 50. His autopsy would change football and the NFL forever. Bennet Omalu didn't spend his Sundays glued to the TV or in stadiums watching football. Arriving to the United States from Nigeria in 1994, Omalu couldn't name a single football player. That was until Mike Webster landed on his autopsy table. Omalu was a neuropathologist working in Pittsburgh when he was assigned to perform Webster's autopsy. It was clear that Webster's body had suffered due to a brutal career. His feet were disfigured through years of abuse. His skin had fused to his skull after years of tasing himself to sleep. He had severe joint damage and arthritis after years of hits and little medical intervention. After Webster's chaotic retirement, the pain, the memory loss, the paranoia, Omalu expected Webster's brain to look like a battlefield. Shockingly, his brain looked completely normal. There was no visible trauma.
Webster's death certificate made Omalu suspect he may have suffered from a brain disorder.
I was expecting to see a brain with Alzheimer's disease features, so a shriveled, ugly-looking brain. But upon opening his skull, Mike's brain looked normal.
Most doctors viewed Webster's case as open and shut, but Omalu didn't. He paid out of his own pocket to run more tests on Webster's brain. He had to know why his brain looked completely normal, but his post-retirement life was anything but. He sliced and preserved Webster's brain and spent months studying the tissues under a microscope. What he found under the microscope was haunting. Strange, tangled proteins choking the brain cells. They starved brain cells, killing them, leaving behind damage where memories and personality should be. But in Webster's case, they were eerily similar to dementia pugilistica or punch-drunk syndrome, found in boxers due to repeated head trauma. This was the first time the condition was seen in a football player, and no one was ready for what came next. Omalu concluded that Webster's disease was a direct result of head trauma sustained during his 17-year NFL career. Omalu named the disease chronic traumatic encephalopathy and unknowingly declared war on the most powerful and profitable sports league in the world. If it weren't for Mike Webster's autopsy and Dr. Omalu's persistence, the truth about CTE would have been buried for decades. When Omalu published his findings in 2005, the NFL launched a full-scale attack, discrediting him, denying science, and doing whatever it took to bury the truth of CTE. In the next episode, we follow 3 NFL players, 2 of whom died from the game. Like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get a conversation going. And don't miss the next episode of Blood, Brains, and Glory.